Okay, we are finally live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Focus Activity 10 to 13. My name is Peter, and I am from Manchester in the northwest of England. Can you tell me what your name is and where you are watching from? So, what is your name and where are you from? At the moment, I am currently living in Milan during this very strange episode. But I am normally I am teaching in Fabio Filzi near Centrale. So, can you tell me your name and where you're from? Today, our focus activity, or 10 to 13, is goals. Today, we look at setting goals, the future perfect, and the future perfect continuous. All right, so the language of setting goals and the different vocab associated with setting goals. All right, the future perfect, how to form it, when to use it, and the future perfect continuous, and the difference in when to use them. So, goal setting. 1. What do you hope to have accomplished by this time next year? 2. What habits do you hope to have changed or created by next year? And 3. What do you want to have achieved by the end of the day? So we can see some examples of the perfect tenses here. Number 1, what do you hope to have accomplished by this time next year? Hopefully, I will have learnt more Italian, and hopefully I will be able to speak more fluently Italian, because I currently live in Italy, but I cannot speak the language very well. What about you at home? Can you tell me, what do you hope to have accomplished by this time next year? So in April 2021, what do you want to have accomplished? I also hope that I will have, hopefully I will have progressed within my work and I will have become a better teacher. But what about you at home? What do you hope to have accomplished? Okay, number 2. What habits do you hope to have changed or created by next year? Oof. What habits do you hope to have changed? I hope to change my habit of eating a lot of sweets, because I eat a lot of sweets at the moment and I know that it is very unhealthy. And I would also like to have created a hobby of doing more sports. At the moment, I know it is very difficult to do sports because of the quarantine, but I hope to continue my new habit of yoga and Pilates. Because of the quarantine, I have been practicing yoga and doing yoga to try and keep fit. And another habit I think I could change is I want to sleep for more hours during the day. Before the quarantine, I used to sleep only around 6 or 7 hours a day, but I would like to change my habit, and hopefully in the future I will be in a position where I sleep 8 or 9 hours a night. Hello, Clara, from Sicily, but you live in Parma. Excellent. Welcome. So, can you tell me, Clara, what do you hope to have accomplished by this time next year? What do you want to have accomplished by April 2021? And what habits do you hope to have changed or created by next year? I think for me, the final question, what do you want to have achieved by the end of the day? Ooh. By the end of the day, I hope to have eaten and cooked a lovely dinner, because by the end of the day, I will have cooked Mexican food, because I am eating fajitas tonight. But what about you at home? What do you hope to have accomplished by, or what do you hope to have changed by next year? And what do you want to have achieved by the end of the day? Remember, all these questions use the future perfect in English. And the future perfect we use to talk about completed actions in the future. Completed actions in the future. All right, so Clara, by this time next year, I think I will have lived in a different city. Nice. Good, good, good. Nice use of the future perfect there as well. I will have lived. Okay. What city do you want to live in, Clara? Is it in Italy or is it in Spain? Future perfect. Used to talk about completed actions in the future. And we have a lovely example by Clara. I will have lived. Okay. All right. Let's continue. A 5-year plan. Oh, Clara, by the end of the day, I will have trained. Yeah, I am exactly the same. I hope to have done some yoga or some Pilates by the end of the day, because I like to exercise, but at the moment it is very difficult, unfortunately. So I understand completely, Clara. It is difficult to train at the moment, but 5-year plan. What goals have you reached over the last year or over the past 5 years? What would you like to accomplish within the next year, 2 years, 5 years? What steps do you need to take to start working toward your goal? And what will you have done to reach your goal by the end of next week, next month? So Clara, you think you will have moved to Milan because there are more job opportunities. Clara, at the moment, I live in Milan because there are more job opportunities. Maybe not at the moment, but in general, there are normally more job opportunities. It is the reason I moved to Milan. That and also because I like to travel. Okay, but nice. Good uses of the future perfects, Clara. Well done. So, tell me at home, what goals have you reached over the last year or over the past 5 years? For me personally, I had the goal of um, living in different countries over the past 5 years. And I have been very lucky because I have lived in Spain, in Madrid, and in Italy. I have lived in Verona and Milan. And I've also reached my goals of learning a second and third language. I am currently learning my third language, but I have learned a second language, which is Spanish. What about you at home? What goals have you reached over the last year or over the past 5 years? And what would you like to accomplish within the next year, 2 years, or 5 years? I think personally, I would like to learn Italian. I hope I will have learnt Italian by the end of next year because I am living in Italy and I think it is important to um, try and immerse yourself in the culture. Okay, I love traveling too, so I hope to have visited most of the countries around the world within 10 years. Ooh, ambitious, ambitious goals you have set for yourself, Clara. Yeah, I have the same ambition. I hope to have traveled to more countries. But by the end of next year, I hope to have traveled to South America because my family are originally from Chile and I would like to visit them. Well, Clara, I have a similar goal to you. I have visited America, Europe, and Asia, and the next continent I want to visit is South America. But I have a few personal goals. I suppose in 5 years' time I will be 32. Hmm. So um, I hope to have maybe a clear goal in my mind with my career and with my prospects. But in my mind, the only goals I have at the moment are traveling. Okay. So over the past years, I have graduated and I have improved my English. I hope to have spoken English as well as a mother tongue in 5 years' time. Okay, wow. So some present perfects and some future perfects. Well done, Clara. Yeah, nice, perfect English. So very, very good. As well as a mother tongue in 5 years' time. I think the only way to speak a second language as well as a mother tongue is to live in another country. So if you can, Clara, since you like traveling, go to England and live in England because we have the best English. Number 3, what steps do you need to take to start working toward your goal? I hope to visit Asia soon. I'm planning to go to Japan next year for the Olympic Games. Japan is another world. It's a very, very crazy place. But I think it's important. A lot of my personal goals are about traveling, especially whilst I am young enough. So I recommend a visit to Japan because Japan is another world that you need to see. But what steps do you need to take to start working towards your goal? Unfortunately for me, um, I need to study more the Italian in a general way. So I need to sit down with a book. Ah, Clara, I am from Manchester. Manchester is my home city. Bristol, Cambridge, Oxford. These are very nice and pretty cities. Bristol, Cambridge, and Oxford. London is very touristy, but Manchester is amazing because I am from Manchester. But in general, I think in order to start working towards your goal, the important thing is to be passionate and to dedicate time. So, for example, with my goal of traveling to different places, I need to dedicate my summers to traveling. For example, around June, July, I normally go on holiday to somewhere new if I can. To start working towards your goal in general, just dedicate time because if you have the passion, then it is time well spent. Number 4, what will you have done to reach your goal by the end of next week or next month? Unfortunately, at the moment, because of the coronavirus quarantine, it is very difficult to have done anything to reach my goal of traveling. But during my period of isolation, I have been learning Italian because I no longer, I can now have more time dedicated to learning my third language. So, Clara, this is exactly how to learn a foreign language. And this is a really good method to have to work towards your goal. So, in order to, if your goal is to speak a foreign language fluently or as well as a mother tongue, something you can do to reach your goal is to speak to mother tongue speakers. But what will you have done to reach your goal by the end of next week, next month? I think is a question for maybe, as Clara says, by the end of next month. Because at the moment we are in a very unique position. All right. Well, let's continue. The best laid plans. Do you prefer to always have a game plan, or do you fly by the seat of your pants? Okay, so some interesting idioms here. To have a game plan. Have a game plan is an idiom we use for when you have organized something. For example, if you go on holiday, if you have a game plan, you have organized the hotels, you have organized what cities to visit, what monuments you want to see. You have everything organized. But if you are flying by the seat of your pants, you let life happen to you. So for example, you act impulsively. So if you fly by the seat of your pants, you don't plan things. You go where the feeling takes you. Or for example, you just decide, I'll book a flight to Japan. I'll go to Tokyo by bullet train. So I normally am a mixture of both of these types of person. I normally have a general sort of game plan, but I leave it open to changes. For example, when I traveled to America, I had a general game plan to keep going west, but I could decide what cities I wanted to visit in the general direction. Oh, to fly by the seat of your pants is when you act instinctively. And it is a fun thing to do, but it can be quite scary. Okay, so Clara. So when you travel alone, you normally fly by the seat of your pants. And when you're with friends, you usually have a game plan. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. This is the way I normally conduct my life. I have a general plan, but I like to leave things for the opportunity to change, because I think it's important not to be too regimented, because maybe you might miss out on some opportunities. So here is some language. To plan out, to plan for, to plan on, and to plan ahead. prepare for something, formulate a detailed scheme, make arrangements in advance, and be ready for something. At home, can you match the the phrasal verbs to their definitions? So what do we think for to plan out? So to plan out something is, for example, when I went traveling, I planned out the route I would take from Miami to San Francisco. I planned the general route I would take. So to plan out is to formulate a detailed scheme. For example, some people plan out their entire lives. I am not like this, but some people have a detailed scheme of what they want for the age by the time they are 30 or by the time they are 25. Okay, to plan for, prepare for something. Exactly, well done, Clara. Yeah. Well, for example, in the quarantine, we plan out our shopping for the supermarket because we like to organize so we don't miss anything. And I normally plan for, I make a plan for Easter holidays and for summer holidays. So I plan for different things. To plan on, shall we see? To plan on something is to be ready for something. Well done, Clara. Exactly, very good. So if you planned on the quarantine and the lockdown, then you bought everything before you had all of the food, all of the drinks that you needed, and you were ready for it. And finally, the last one, obviously, is to plan ahead. When you make plans for the future. Okay. I usually plan out my English class at my English school. Okay, nice. Yeah. So you normally formulate a detailed scheme of your English class. Yeah. I am not the type of person who plans ahead because I think it is very important to live in the moment. But here we have all of the definitions to the phrasal verbs. So at home, if you like, you can take a picture or you can save the screen. But to plan out, formulate a detailed scheme. To plan for, prepare for something. To plan on is to be ready for something, and to plan ahead is to make arrangements in advance. If you have any questions at home, or if there's something you don't understand, please write to me on the comments and I can try and explain it for you. But if not, let's continue. Okay, so looking forward, looking back. By the time plus simple present. By the time she finishes writing her novel, she will have been writing for 3 years. Subject plus will plus have plus been plus verb ing. So here we see an example of the future perfect continuous. The future perfect continuous is subject will have plus been and then the ing form. Okay. The future perfect continuous it refers to events or actions that are currently unfinished but will be finished at some future time. So for example, I will have been teaching for 3 hours by 9 o'clock. So events or actions that are currently unfinished but will be finished in the future. So the same for me. The quarantine is learning to everybody that planning ahead doesn't make sense. Lovely self-correction. Well done, Clara. Yeah, exactly. This is the way I live my life. My father always told me growing up, life happens to you because I do not plan. I like to do things instinctively. Okay, future perfect we use to talk about a completed action in the future. The future perfect continuous to talk about an action that is currently unfinished but will be finished at some point in the future. So, by the time she finishes writing her novel, she will have been writing for 3 years. By 7 p.m., I will have been working for 12 hours straight. By the time I get home, by the time I finish working, by this time next year. At home, can you please write some sentences using the future perfect continuous? For example, by the time I get home, I will have been working for 4 hours, but at the moment, I am always home because I am in isolation. By the time I finish working, so for me, by the time I finish working, I will have been teaching for 3 hours. And by this time next year, I will have been living in Milan for almost 2 years. By this time next year, I will have been living in Parma for 4 years. Really nice, really good, Clara. Excellent future perfect continuous. Subject will have been ing. Really nice, yeah. So normally, by the time I get home, I will have been walking for 6 hours. Okay. In the sentence, by 7 p.m., I will have been working for 12 hours straight. Straight in this context is used to explain 12 hours consecutively. So I've been working for 12 hours straight. I've been working for 12 hours consecutively without a break. So it's a very unfortunate thing to say. But what will you have done by the time you have finished working or finished studying? What will you have been doing? By the end of this week, I will have been staying at home for more than 1 month. Exactly. Well done, Clara. At the moment, by the end of April, I will have been staying at home for longer than 7 weeks, which is a very depressing thing to say, but it is a good example of the future perfect continuous. Okay. So, nice examples of the future perfect continuous. Well done, Clara. By the time I finish, graduate, retire, get home, get married, get a promotion, will have been for. So I want you to form your own sentences using the future perfect continuous using these words. For example, by the time I retire, I will have been working for, I imagine, 60 or 70 years. Or by the time I finish teaching, I will have been speaking for over 2 hours. Or can you at home try and form your own sentences? By the time I get married, by the time I get married, I will have been dating my girlfriend for 3 or 4 years, I imagine. By the time I graduate, remember, graduate, because we're talking about a hypothetical term in the future. So by the time I graduate, I will have been working for 1 year and a half. Excellent. Yeah. Really, really nice example. Well done, Clara. By the time I graduate, I will have been working for 1 year and a half. Another example could be, by the time I get a promotion, I will have been working for 1 or 2 years. Okay? So the future perfect and the future perfect continuous. Future perfect, completed actions in the future. Future perfect continuous, an action that is unfinished but will finish by some point in the future. By the time I buy a home, I will have been earning a lot of money. Lovely example. Well done, Clara. Unfortunately, it is necessary because buying a home is very difficult, especially if you plan to move to Milan. All right. Nice examples there. Well done. Oh, let's have a look at the last slide. Time waits for no one. By the end of this lesson, how long will you have been studying English? By the end of this year, how long will you have been living in your current home? By the end of this month, how long will you have been working at your current job? What will you have done by the end of the week to reach your goal? By this time next year, what do you hope to have accomplished, and how will your life have changed by reaching your goals? All right, so a lot of questions here and a lot of opportunities to use the future perfect and the future perfect continuous. All right, number one. By the end of this lesson, how long will you have been studying English? Unfortunately, I can change the question to teaching. By the end of this lesson, how long will you have been teaching English? I will have been teaching English for 4 years and counting by the end of this lesson. What about you at home? Yes, unfortunately, Milan is more expensive than Parma. But what about you at home? How long have you been studying English? Or by the end of this lesson, how long will you have been studying English? Number 2. By the end of this year, how long will you have been living in your current home? I need to think because unfortunately, I am not very good at maths. My English, I think, is okay, but my maths is terrible. So, by the end of this year, I will have been living in my current home for a little bit longer than a year. Okay, nice, Clara. By the end of this year, I will have been studying English for about 15 years. A long time studying English, but unfortunately, English is a very difficult language. By the end of this month, how long will you have been working at your current job? So by December. By the end of this month. Again, my maths is not very good, so I will have been working at my current job in Milan for around 9 or 10 months. 9 or 10 months, I think. So, now to use the future perfect. What will you have done by the end of the week to reach your goal? I will have done lots of yoga and Pilates to try and reach my goal of staying fit. Unfortunately, I have studied English with Italian speakers for most of that years. I see. Well, sometimes it is nice to study with Italian speakers who teach English, but sometimes it is also good to have a mother tongue teacher. there are advantages and disadvantages on both sides. But by this time next year, what do you hope to have accomplished? I hope to have, hopefully I will have learned Italian so that I can speak Italian a lot better than I can at the moment. And I hope I will have continued my yoga and Pilates longer than the quarantine period. And finally, number 3. How will your life have changed by reaching your goals? I think my life will be different because I will have improved my general health, and I will be happier because I will be able to communicate much, much more effectively in Italy if I am able to speak Italian. I'll have attended some training courses by the end of this week to not become fat. Okay, yeah, well done, Clara. It is a worry for all of us. Don't worry. I have downloaded the Nike training app to try and avoid this situation. But since there are only a few minutes left, let's do a quick revision. So we saw some phrasal verbs earlier. To plan out is to formulate a detailed scheme. To prepare for something is to plan for. To plan on is when you are ready for something, and to plan ahead is when you make arrangements in advance. So make arrangements beforehand. Okay. The future perfect we use to talk about completed actions in the future. And we form it with subject plus will plus have plus past participle. For example, I will have learned Italian by the end of next year, hopefully. And the future perfect continuous we can see on the screen. The future perfect continuous we use for actions that are currently unfinished but will be finished at some point in the future. For example, by this time next year, I will have been working for in my job for over a year, by almost 2 years, in fact. We can see the form on the screen for the future perfect continuous. Subject plus will plus have plus been, and finally the verb plus ing. All right. Thank you for joining us and for your lovely comments, Clara. You're an absolutely perfect student with lots of nice examples of the future perfect and future perfect continuous. So well done. Remember, we have webinars for every level and at every hour. So anytime you're free, please continue to study English. But for now, bye-bye, and I hope to see you again soon. And I hope you have a lovely Easter weekend. All right, bye-bye.